every other Wednesday.
The art of conversation takes center stage.
With Alana
And Stacey,
Auréa Talk Central.
where creativity speaks. Welcome back to another episode of Auréa Talk Central. We are so excited to be with you all again. So grab your snacks and sit back. We're here with our hosts, me, Stacey, and
Alana.
And remember to follow our social medias on Instagram at Auréa Talk Central.
Yes, the last episode was so much fun, and I'm really excited about this episode today because we're joined by a special guest, Klaejo. He's our first guest on this show, so he's an amazing poet who really captures emotions and tells stories in such a powerful way.
Yeah. 100%. We first heard of him performing at the PIC event and knew we had to get in touch with him. So obviously you did a nice performance.
Cheeky little performance.
Yeah, which was amazing.
It was a brilliant event as well.
Yeah, it was a great event. How did you find that event?
I think it was cold. Like, I think anytime I've got the opportunity to go out and like go to an event and meet people who are attracted to that space, like whether they're creatives themselves, whether they're just people who like to be in those spaces, like I just feel like the conversations you have with those people you wouldn't have with just normal people you meet outside. So I think it's an incredible space to be a part of, and obviously to be able to contribute to it feels
Did you
really
make good connections?
Yeah. Incredible. Here I am. Do you know what I mean?
Of
Here I am.
course.
Like,
So do you want to give a quick introduction about yourself and like what you do for our listeners?
Okay. So at the moment, I'm focusing a lot on my writing, more my long form writing, so my essays on my Substack. But over this summer, last year or so, I've been performing poetry. Also an English tutor.
Okay.
And obviously this past summer, I graduated from uni as well.
Oh, well done.
Thank you. And that was in English and creative writing as well. So like my whole life revolves around words, and I love words. So yeah, that's just me. If it's involving words, I'll be involved.
Yeah, that's amazing. Can you tell us a bit about your journey into poetry and where it all began for you, where it started?
I think I've always had sort of an affinity for those things, like for writing, for poetry, for literature. I wouldn't say I'm the biggest reader, which I think catches people off guard sometimes. Like not of like novels and things like that. Like I read articles and like non-fiction books a lot when I was younger, but it was never like fiction. I don't know why, but me getting into poetry was sort of just me trying to make sense of myself and the world around me. And I literally just wrote whatever interested me. And I think the first person to tell me I was good at writing was my year 5 teacher, Miss Hill.
That's so sweet.
Shout out Lindsay, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's my goat. That's my favorite teacher of all time. And I don't think without her I wouldn't have become the person I am today. So yeah, I credit a lot of my success to her. I don't even know where she at. You know, hopefully one day I can win like a Brit or a Grammy, and then you know that scene like when Adele.
That into existence.
Yeah, it will happen.
You know when Adele won one and they just got her teacher in the crowd. I need that to happen. I need them to find her.
I hope this gets out to her.
So what area did you grow up in?
Like northeast London on the border of Essex. Like really like just right on the line.
Yeah.
Did that area shape who you are today, like, and give you a lot of influence in your voice?
I think so because it's not in the city. I think I'm a bit more sort of laid back in comparison to people who are more like from like central or like closer to town. But because I'm not completely outside in the countryside, I've still sort of got that. You know what I mean? I don't know. The intensity of an Londoner, if that makes sense. Like, if I go outside of London, people can tell I've grown up, like, around London. But then when I'm in London, people are like, you know,
I don't know, because I would never expect that you lived, like, on that outskirts.
Yeah. So this is the thing. Like, I don't know. Me and my sister were having a conversation the other day about my accent and whether we feel like, do you guys feel like I got an accent? See, this is what I'm saying.
No, I don't see it.
This is what I'm saying. Yeah, I was saying that as well. So, yeah, I just think it's interesting. But I do definitely think where I grew up influenced me. It's a lot of nature. Yeah. And I love nature. So, yeah. I think that's the biggest way it did. Yeah.
100%. And I mean, like, linked to where you grew up and stuff, what type of topics do you normally write about in poetry? Like, is it based on where you, like, you know, personal things, or do you sort of write about broad ideas?
I think because of who I am, I feel like I got a lot of interests in a lot of things. I say with my Substack essays, and I think this does extend into my poetry as well, I say I focus on music, nature, humanity, music, sport, and society.
Okay.
So those are the things that I mostly write about, and those are things that I say are my biggest interest just in life in general.
Yeah.
100%.
So yeah, I write about what I take interest in.
Yeah.
And yeah, what I take interest in, I write about.
And linked to that, do you sort of when you're writing, do you have like a clear topic or like sort of plan of what you write, or do you the type of writer? Because I know loads of writers like they just start writing to see where it goes.
Yeah.
Or do you have like a clear plan with like how your topics are?
It depends on the piece, to be honest. I think if it's an essay, normally essays I start with like just a title.
Yeah.
And that will be my plan. Like my plan will be my title. I'm just like I can look at that and understand where I want to take that, and then
100%.
as I'm writing through it, then I'm like, oh, this is an issue. I need to figure this out. Fix it like that. But if it's a poem, I think I like. You know, when I listen to music, a lot of my poetry is inspired by songs. When I listen to music, it's almost like I create like a music video in my head. I'm like,
that's cool.
what would this song look like? And I try and make that, like try and almost transcribe that into poetry. And that's how I end up writing poetry. Yeah.
What type of songs do you listen to then?
I listen to a lot of music. Like I don't
like genres then?
I'd say my biggest genres at the moment are rap and R&B.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get more into like just a sort of chill vibe. I don't like saying indie because there's indie everything, but like you get what I mean when I say that.
100%.
Just because I think I always say like the transition from summer into winter, I think that's the time for like slowing down. And then winter, like once winter's here, I feel like that's the time for rap. Like you can't be you can't be like living life in winter just kind of there's nothing to smile about.
That's so
do you know
real.
what I mean? You gotta have that hard hitting stuff to get you through the day. Do you know what I mean? But I feel like before we get into that moment, I like to, autumn time. This is the closest I get to being, like a white Tumblr girl. I think the pumpkin spice lattes and the blankets and stuff. Yeah,
that's so true. Yeah.
How would you say your identity and your ethnic background has shaped who you are and how it has influenced you as a person?
I think this is an interesting question because I think identity is such a crazy topic.
Yeah.
Like I feel like it's a topic that I feel like a lot of people have a lot of feelings for, but they're very hard to verbalize. But in terms of like, when you say identity, I take that in as like how I see myself.
Yeah.
Right. So how I see myself, like I think, first of all, like a brother, a son, before anything else. And so like that's a very big thing. I think like my relationship with my sister is very important to me. Like they're both my best friends.
Are they older or younger?
They're both younger, but we're very close. So I'm 2004 and then they're 2005, 2006.
Okay, so it's very close.
Exactly, yeah. Like, they both just started uni this week and I'm feeling hella lonely. I woke up today alone in the house. I was like, guys, no, it can't start like this. But no, it's really fun. I feel like, everything that I do is for them. Not like, obviously I do things that I want to do, but as in the way that I move through life, if that makes sense. Like I'm trying to put myself in a position where I can put them in a position where they don't have to go through the same things that I went through, right? Giving them like better.
And in terms of like your ethnic background,
ethnically I'd say I think it's very hard because I think for a lot of people who are like me, sort of like first, second generation children of immigrants, like I think it's hard because there's that disconnect of not being there physically, but obviously having that physical connection in terms of your parents being here with you.
100%.
But then obviously they've also been disconnected to their home, and so they've had to assimilate, and so it's about finding that balance. I think it's cool that my first language wasn't English. I'm from Uganda, so my first language was Luganda. I spoke that before I spoke English, and we still speak it quite a lot at home.
That's really good.
And
go on, sorry.
I was gonna say, so because I relate with what you were saying about sort of second generation immigrants and like having to find that link, especially like being in the UK and being, I mean, as you said, you lived like near Essex sort of area. Do you feel like you had to sort of use your poetry to like find that link, or like was there enough sort of community around you that sort of allowed you to bring that into your poetry, or did you feel like you had to find that yourself?
I think a bit of both, like because my mum always did a good job of like making sure that we were close to our people. And I mean, we come down to Croydon quite a lot. She does specifically, but we try our best to come down to Croydon because there's a lot of us down here just in the south. And she comes down here for church. I think it's like every first or second Sunday of the month. So it's like an hour and a half drive and stuff, but it's cool every single time we can be with our people. But then also like in terms of the things that I don't know, the things that like there's certain parts of like identity and sort of ethnicity and community, things like that, where you're only able to be somebody who can learn that if you're there physically.
I get
like that. And that's something that obviously I haven't had the luxury of being able to do. However, I did actually go to school in Uganda for 6 months.
Really? How was that?
In 2012. I was 8. Yeah, that was it was interesting.
Yeah,
definitely interesting. I think
that your first time there, or
no, I went there a lot as a kid.
Okay.
I haven't been in a while. I haven't been in a couple of years now, but I went there a lot as a kid. And being there for education was so interesting because of the stuff that we were learning in like P3 there, like year 3 essentially.
Yeah.
The stuff we were learning in P3 there, we didn't touch until like year 8, year 9 here.
Oh wow!
And I was just like, wow. Like,
so you already knew it?
Yeah, like by the time we got to year 8 or 9, and I was just like, this is so interesting seeing like obviously how, you know, differently people approach life from place to place. I think it taught me a lot about like it sort of provided a lot of context about the people around me and the people who I'm connected to family wise, communally. Like I think that was really cool.
Do you have a lot of family out there as well?
Yeah, quite a lot. Yeah, but I think I wouldn't say I'm necessarily close to them, but I think the idea of having a big family, I think, is just comforting by itself because it's just like you're not here by yourself. Do you know what I mean? Like you didn't just, you know, what's it? Kamala said, she was like, you exist in the context of everything that came before you. So yeah, I think that's always really cool to think about. Yeah,
I get that, and I mean, you touched a bit about it with how your relationship with your sisters and how you sort of the way you go about life, the way you you know, the way you behave and stuff to sort of shape the way for them. So do you feel like, you know, as a writer and as a tutor as well, do you feel like your work has a lot of responsibility, or like how do you balance that with like being honest and like still telling your truth while still keeping it, you know?
So I think all creatives have a massive responsibility, no matter what it is, whether it's like writing, music, art, anything like that. I think our responsibility as creators is to reflect the times in however we see fit. But I think that at the end of the day, people in 20, 50, 100 years time should be able to look back at our work and be like, this is emblematic of that era. And I think that you can go about like achieving that in so many different ways
100%. That
I think really and truly like writing from a place of feeling will do that, because at the end of the day, that's a present feeling that's coming from this time. So I think that's one way I try and do it. In terms of like me being a tutor, for example, like trying to make the world a better place, easier place for the next generation. Like, there's a line from a song that I really like called Asata's Code, and it's the lines basically, we need to make this world more user friendly. And I think that's one of my biggest sort of things, like especially in my essays. Like I wrote an essay yesterday talking about issues in communication. It was called you think your reasons are excuses, and that's why your problems persist. So basically like talking about things where people, again, they'll probably have sort of the ideas or the feelings where like, something's not completely right here, but they won't have the words or the skill set to be able to verbalize the issue and then actually do something to sort it out.
100%.
Do you know what I mean? And so that's where I think I can come in to help with that.
And I know you said that you've listened to a lot of artists and you get a lot of inspiration from them. Are there any like specific poets and even same artists as well that have inspired you when starting out into like making poetry?
Oh, massively. I think because I did an English degree when I was doing, so you could pick your own modules. I focused a lot on American literature because America is the world's superpower at this moment in time. So I think it's very important for me to understand how that sort of culture came to be and how it manifests itself in its art and its you know, creative outlets, right? And so I focused a lot on that. I looked at environmental crisis in American writing. I looked at New York poetics, and I looked at sympathy and how all of those things are sort of constructed and worked around. My favorite poets to come out of that, poets specifically, I'd say the Black arts poets, so like Amiri Baraka, Jane Cortez, Audre Lorde, all of those type of people. Absolutely love. And then in terms of like music, because again, even rappers, I think rappers are poets. Like I really love Talib Kweli. He's great. I think there's just I will honestly go on forever if you guys let me start. but like it is like I just think music's such a powerful tool. But like I say, those are sort of like my biggest inspirations, where you can kind of most clearly see their inspiration in my work.
In terms of poetry, you know, I'm not a poet, and I remember doing poetry in English and all of that. Would you say it's still like a declining type of industry, or do you think it's going back up again? Like, do you see it still having the power to change society or social change and stuff like that?
I think, first of all, I think everyone's a poet. Like, I think you can get a line from anybody. Like, if you let someone talk enough, they'll say something that's like, you know what I mean? Oh, you know, I'll put that in my notes section. I think poetry exists in everybody because life is poetry. Like, as in terms of like, you know, people describe like people will have different definitions of what poetry is itself. But I think when you're in a position where you're so entrenched in poetry, like I am, it's very easy to see poetry because you're so exposed to it.
I like that.
But if you're not someone who's exposed to poetry, you're just going to take words as being words and not as something that's like alive. And language is very much alive. So that's the first thing I say. But in terms of whether it still has the power to sort of, you know, strike people in the same way that it has before, I definitely think so. I just think that poetry's in a place where obviously back in the day you didn't have to compete with movies music and social media to this level. So obviously maybe we're fighting for attention, and because of that we're getting like less of a focus put on our words, or people are sitting with the words less. Like back in the day, people probably released poetry and you'd sit and stare at a poem for like 100 years. Like, do you know what I mean? Like you sit and stare at a poem and be like, oh my god, like this is incredible, read it over and over and over again. And now people kind of just see something on there, think, double tap and scroll. Do you know what I mean? So it doesn't sit with you, you don't really digest it as well as, you know, you probably should. So I think that's probably the biggest issue that poetry faces.
And growing up as a performer and sort of, you know, sharing your poetry with others, and like being able to, you know, give your poetry out and like being noticed. How do you measure your level of success? And is your idea of success different to when you started to now?
My idea of success is honestly just like peace. Like, because I've gone through quite a lot in my life. Like, and I think writing's always been, you know, obviously like an outlet for me. So I think when I get to a point of like when I complete a piece, it's like a release. It's just like a that's out, you know, type of thing. And so even like for me, that is the success. Like anything that comes after me finishing a piece is extra. But like for me, when I have an idea or a creative concept that I want to execute, like if that gets done and if that exists, if I make that thing exist, to me that's the success.
100%.
And in terms of like what I do, like performance wise, like it's great that I get to perform for people and everything like that. But honestly, genuinely, it is just like on top of that. Like, and I think it's something that comes with it because, you know, I feel like my work is great. Do you know what I mean?
It is.
But
do
do you know what I mean? But like I like that won't change whether I'm performing or not. Do you know what I mean? Like, in terms of how I feel about my work.
Of course.
Obviously it helps when you can perform and people can tell you that your work is great. That helps. But like I feel like the way I feel about my work or the way I, you know, view success doesn't really change based off of that.
Yeah. And has it always been like that? Like have you always been, I mean, as you should be, like confident in your work, or has there been moments where, you know, people have given you feedback, or you've been in places where people haven't given you, like, you know, haven't given you the recognition that you deserve? Has that ever changed the way you look at your work or the way you view yourself as a writer?
I think growing up, imposter syndrome was a big thing. I think less so now because I've given myself like a mountain of evidence as to why I do deserve to be in the places that I am.
Of course.
So I think there's that, you know, there's an affirmation that I've been saying frequently recently, which is basically saying that action's more trustworthy than feeling. And so like not to say not to feel your feelings, but like when the feelings are negative, like that sort of self-doubt, you know, all of that type of stuff, I think me thinking about that doesn't really do much for me. Like if I am feeling something like that, then now I feel like I've equipped myself with the tools to actually be able to do something a bit more productive with it rather than, you know what I mean? It's important to feel it obviously, but
of course.
you can't feel it forever. Life does need to move on at some point. So
I know you said that you live by, what was it? Action speaks louder than words.
Essentially.
Is there like other like phrases or like quotes that you live by off to keep you like, you know, your head screwed?
I have a lot. I have a big note section, but I say my biggest one first of all is the universe works for me, because like everything happens for a reason, but also just that sort of, you have to be open to receive things in order to get them. Otherwise, you know what I mean, like why would they come to you? Like, do you know what I mean, if you're not ready to receive them? So, you know, I've said that since 22, and I think it's great. You know, the universe works for me. Everything's gonna work out in the end type thing. I would say that disappointment's the byproduct of expectation, which helps me temper expectation, because I hate the feeling of being disappointed. Because being disappointed is something that's very like, it hits you. Do you know what I mean? Because it's normally something that's come from somebody who you had high hopes for, or at least you saw them in a good light. So I try to not have expectations, because expectations are natural, that's kind of cutting off the future if you don't have it any expectation. And that would be a very silly thing to do. I've got futurity is a very big thing for me in terms of like thinking forward. But it's also about like, controlling them and not like sort of allowing yourself to sort of get swept away by these grandiose like ideas of what you want to happen.
Of course. And how because I think a lot of people struggle with this, how have you, obviously you studied English, you studied creative writing, how do you still keep a passion for writing when you've had to study it, and like has there ever been a struggle of like like, have you ever got bored of it, like,
or burnt out?
Or burnt out.
Burnout is a thing that I go through very regularly.
Very common.
Burnout's crazy. Like the last week I was crazy ill. Like, and like I had a flu and everything, like beginning of last week. Don't worry, we're fine now, we're fine. But like it's something where it's like every single time I do get ill, a lot of the time it's like the changes in the season time. So anytime the temperature suddenly shifts, suddenly gets colder, suddenly gets hotter, I normally get ill. And when I get ill, that's sort of the time where I'm like, you slow down, like it's all good, like it's all actually fine. Like I'm like. When you wake up and you got that thing in your throat, and you're trying to breathe, and it's like, guys, it's like, when you're ill, you're like, oh my god, guys, breathing, oh my god, like breathing's not free, man. Do you know what I mean?
Like you realize
all of that
how
type of
good
stuff,
it was
exactly. Like, and you just, all simple movement hurts, and everything's just long. You don't have an appetite. So I think, I had to deal with that. But in terms of when I've been studying English, for example, and getting bored of English like that, I wouldn't say necessarily it's boredom, but maybe sometimes, maybe one week we were studying a poet that I didn't really care for, or like I was studying a piece that I didn't really like. But it's all about trying to approach what it is that you're doing from a place where you can find your interest in it.
Of course.
And so even if I'm looking at something where initially I'm just like, what the hell am I doing here? This has got nothing, like this isn't moving me in any sort of way. I find a way in which it does, or I try and think about something which is tangentially connected to it. And then I'm like people, how people are like, oh, that's a stretch. Me personally, I love stretches because it's like, it shows me your process.
Of course.
And I think process is so important in terms of like, how can you get from point A to point F? Do you know what I mean? And what are the different sort of routes you take to get in between those things? So it's just about trying to make it fun for me.
So what type of poems do you more like typically lean towards? I know you said that sometimes you study poems. So like, what type of poems would you like more inclined to like go towards, like write about and also study about?
I wouldn't even say there's a specific sort of type of poem. Like, it's not one specific form or one specific sound or one specific like way that it's written, but it will be like a case by case basis. It can literally be, oh, I don't like the way they describes this one thing in the poem, and it sort of just like gives me a poetic ick, and I'm just like, you know what I mean, I'm not really too keen on that. But I think the poems that I love are the poems that sort of force you to do something, right? Whether it's forcing you to feel, forcing you to act, forcing you to think, forcing you to do all of those type of things, where it's like you can't help but etc. Following a poem, I think that like a poem that sort of propels you to do something, like I think that's an author, a poet wielding the power that they have, and I think that's so cool. Those I'd say are one of my favorite type of pieces.
Of course. And how do you deal with writer's block? And this is like a personal question for me, because I used to actually write poems as well.
You get back on it, and you should start too as well.
I used to in secondary. Trust me, in secondary school. No, listen.
Everyone's got something in their notes, man. I'm not even you. Like everyone who says I'm not a poet. Anyway, go on.
No, in secondary school, I used to like write. I used to write poems. Like English literature was like my subject, and I used to write because obviously, so I'm dyslexic, so so I found it really hard to. I didn't read, same as you. I never read, but when it came to writing, I was able to write, and like that's sort of how
because you can talk. That's the thing. You can talk. You
and that sort of formed into like script writing, and that's how I got into like film and stuff.
That's cool.
Makes sense.
Cool.
But I think with me, and like obviously a lot of poets who also like have dyslexia and like struggle with reading, struggle with writing, we go through like a lot. I mean, I'm not sure if you go through this anyway, but you have a lot of like writer's block. Even if you have ideas, you're not able to get them out, or like sometimes you're staring in front of the paper and you're just not able to write anything.
Exactly.
So how do you deal with that?
Writer's block is a crazy thing. It's a crazy thing because it like, I think for me, my writer's block stems from a place of being creatively overstimulated. Like I'll have so many ideas or so many things to say that I actually can't think, like I can't stick
like
on one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I can't stick on one thought long enough to actually get it out and
it's
make
like
it exist.
like a big,
It's
like,
so much.
unorganized mess in your head, and it's like you don't know how to like
even
organize
start.
it.
Yeah.
Like, and I always talk about this. Like, I give the analogy of, you know, like back in the day where you had a house computer and you had all the cables coming out the back of it.
Yeah.
I think about it like have all those cables being tangled.
Yeah.
And like to go through and untangle all of those cables, you need to take it out the socket. But then now your computer's not working for a second. But then like you need to take it out of your computer to untangle all the cables. But while you're doing that, you can't use the computer to do anything. And then you untangle all the cables and put them back in. But now you need to log on, and then your computer's probably going to be like, guys, we need to update.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh my god, guys, I haven't been working because all of the cables are out, and now I've got all this work to catch up on.
Yeah.
And so that's what writer's block feels like to me. It's kind of like
I
sort
like that analogy.
That's a
falling
great
back
analogy.
in the process, because I think writing is a thing where it's like I've written an essay called The Hatred of Poetry, basically, and it's talking about why a lot of people hate or sort of have a difficulty falling in love with poetry.
Yeah.
And I was basically talking about the fact that poetic purpose, to be a poet, like you need to grow comfortable with failing a lot of the time. And there's no such thing as being able to, like, every poem is a record of failure. That's what Ben Lerner says. And he says that because, you know, when you have that initial idea, the initial piece of inspiration that inspires you to do something, you're never going to be able to create something that is as good as that sort of initial spark that you had in your brain. So whatever it is that you're doing, poetry, music, whatever, art, like that thing that you create just exists as you trying to almost, oh no, don't go, let me try to keep as much of this initial idea as I can as possible. So it's like you have to be okay with the fact that what you have in your head will never actually get created, but you're just trying to get as close to that mental idea as possible. And you know, sometimes that's okay. That's okay.
I know you brought in a poem for us.
Yeah, I did.
Do you want to read it out to us?
Yeah, let's hear it.
I think this actually fits quite well, actually, in terms of where we are right now.
Do you want to give a little
synopsis?
About what it's about.
So it's called Artistic Asphyxiation. It's about the writing process.
Okay.
So it's talking about, so me, I'm nocturnal. Like I like to describe myself as being nocturnal. Like I prefer being awake at night and asleep during the day. Like if I've got nothing to do, that's what I'll do.
Yeah.
So then, you know, I'm talking about my reasons why, and sort of how it helps me with my writing process. So yeah, the piece is called Artistic Asphyxiation because it's about writer's block and those moments where you feel like asphyxiation, like you can't breathe. So that's what it's about. That's what it's inspired by.
I can't wait to hear it.
Yeah.
I tend to write late at night because I find it easier then to fly a kite when there's less things in the air and less things to care about. The only downside is that the things I care about a lot more then. I feel it in my lost core and I'm left reeling at my lost core. And I'm left bleeding out my lost core because I bleed to find the lost law that compartmental isolation hid from me. I'm so tired of bleeding, of losing myself, of seeing myself lose myself, of seeing myself losing myself before catching myself, before I lose myself again. I'm so tired of seeing. That's why I close my eyes as I yawn, because yawning is just a tired body trying and finding a way to usher in more oxygen to breathe. Did you know your breath slows when you're fatigued? That's what it feels like when I can't write. Like my breath has slowed and I can't even begin to whisper the sound of an ode to the paints of my pains and their central splatters of splendor that glitter and sparkle whilst also being derived from renders of failure and rejection and misguided attention. And so I'm not ready to die just yet. My ode is not complete and this play of mine deserves an ode worthy of a seat at the table in a script I now write for myself. I just haven't quite finished yet. And I'm learning that sometimes that is okay. Sometimes it's okay to leave things incomplete so you can complete them when you defeat them later, when you've gone through the process and learned how to savor whatever the flavor life pushes upon your tongue. Because tasting something new isn't always a signal to run, but more so a sign that the process has begun. And you can never get to the end without beginning, and something has to happen somewhere. Otherwise, where's the story? No, actually, where's the story? I've lost it. Anyways, I'm getting tired of this poem. I should probably end it. That's it. That's done.
That's really good.
That.
Yeah.
When did you write it?
This was in the middle of a writer's block moment, and I was just like, guys, I'm trying to write. I have energy to write, but like nothing's coming out. And I literally just wrote about, like, I always say that's the thing. Like, if you got a writer's block, talk about what the block is.
Yeah.
Like, if you feel like, oh, guys, I'm just so tired from work and like I just can't write about being tired from work. Like, do you know what I mean? So that's what I did in that situation. I was like, I got writer's block. I can't get my words out.
Yeah.
Let me just get that out. Like, do you know what I mean? And so it's sort of metafiction in a way where I'm talking about the writing process whilst writing. But yeah, I wrote that maybe 2 months ago now.
Okay.
That's
so
amazing.
it was in like peak summer, I think.
And in terms of your poems, and for this one, how long does it actually take you to write it?
Now that poem I did it genuinely in like 5 minutes.
Oh.
That felt really. So this is the thing. When I write from a place of pure sort of like, this was inside me, that's really easy to get out.
Yeah.
And maybe I'll just edit it and tweak a couple things afterwards, rhyme schemes and things like that. But when it's something where it's like I've got a big sort of concept, a big idea, a big plan, that's something where it can take me normally 2-3 days. Not like the whole day, obviously, like maybe it's 1 hour here and a couple hours there, but like, yeah, like I'll never really be on a piece for longer than more than 2-3 days, because if I am, I feel like that's just, it's not working.
What we're thinking like 3 weeks, like
yeah.
Actually, I have a question like linked to this poem as well, and just generally with you as a poet. How do you feel? What are the emotions that you want people to feel when hearing your poem, or like how do you want them to react? 'Cause I know you said that some of your favorite poems are the ones that make you do things, that make you act. So how do you want people to act?
First of all, I just want them to feel. I think I like the idea of my work being like a mirror of people's, like a mirror to people. A place where they can come and meet a version of themselves. And I think that's what a lot of it does, where it's like I'll say something that relates to me, but obviously because you're you're gonna read it and receive it in the way that you do. 100%. And so obviously I've got all of my context, and that's why I wrote what I wrote in the way that I wrote it. But you've got all of your context, and that's why you'll hear it and receive it in the way that you hear it and receive it. And so it's just about for me, I think, allowing people to meet different sort of sides of themselves and think about things which maybe you won't, like how sometimes if you're in your own private space, your mind will begin to wander, and you're just like, not right now. Do you know what I mean? But like when I'm performing or when I'm reading a poem, like once I start, like you're not stopping me until I'm done. So it's like, you're going to sit here and you're going to listen to this. And wherever your mind goes during that, that's not my issue. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're going to feel that, and maybe that will, what you think about, what that, the little flashpoint in a poem, what you think about then will help you think about, next time your mind goes wandering off, you're like, actually, let's go down that path and see, let's go and explore more of myself.
100%.
Quick question, because obviously we've met you through the Printed in Colour event, and I think that was a good size crowd.
Absolutely. No, it's brilliant.
2 questions actually. Was that your first time performing like any of your poems? And my second question is, after that, do you prefer more intimate, like small crowds, or do you want to go big and do like some crazy, like 1,000 people?
I think different things require different things, right? So basically, right, first of all, no, it wasn't my first time performing. It was my first time performing in a while. I don't think I performed before then since like June. But I did quite a lot of performances like spring to May, so like or April to May. My first ever performance was last May. So that was the first time I ever performed, and that was really fun. That was great. But I think in terms of crowd size and things like that, like that, I thought that crowd was fine. Like in terms of like, me being a performer for that crowd, like I thought that crowd was okay. Like if it was any more, I think I probably would have, like for that event specifically, I think I would have been like, guys, whoa. Because it's like, especially when it's a place where the room's getting filled out. Because it's like, when you're on stage, like the lights above, and then like you're kind of getting dazzled.
And
then like exactly, then there's flashlights, and exactly you're looking around, and everyone's just staring at you. Like there's no escape, there's no reprieve. I kind of like that though. It's quite fun. It makes you feel alive. Like it's like people's eyes are on me. You know? But I think having a small crowd, an intimate crowd, I think because I had an event of my own in May, and that was maybe around like 20-30 people. So it was a bit more manageable, more classroom-like. I think that was, it's just a different sort of event. Do you know what I mean? I feel like you deliver poetry in that space differently to when you're performing for like 60, 70 people. But I think, different times call for different things. I like them both. It's a good mix.
Do you think it helped that it was a room of creatives as well? Because obviously, people go to poem readings because they're interested in poetry. Like, do you think it helped as that everyone was there as a creative, different creatives?
I think so. Because I think when you're somebody who is creatively inclined, you have a bigger appreciation for other aspects of creativity. I think somebody, not to say that people who, because I think if you're somebody who can sit in an audience of a poetry event, I think you are like in some way creatively inclined, like as in like you got that inside you. I think everyone has, but again, you just kind of gets like sort of molded out of you, I think, by like the school system and stuff,
100%.
which is why I'm an English tutor, by the way, because I think the way that they teach English at school is horrific. And like if you're not somebody who can get it like in the way they teach at school, you're never going to like in the way that they teach it. So I think with my students, yeah, like I would try and make English a lot more of an accessible thing. So we'll watch like TV series, we'll watch like clips and scenes from that, and I'll be like, what happened right there? Tell me why. Like, and I'll kind of, my biggest thing in those sessions is trying to get them to work on their reasoning. Like, you know, like you'll see something, you'll have an opinion on it, but why do you have that opinion? Exactly. So I'd like, that's what I'm trying to build, like for the first half of the year. Then like after January, I'm like, okay guys, unfortunately we have exams. Do you know what I mean? Unfortunately question 1 needs to be answered in this way, that, and then we can get into all of that. But before then, it's like, I just want to sort of increase that space that they have for, as you said, reasoning and being able to like defend their arguments.
100%.
I know you said that you had your own event. What was that about? Like, did you organize it?
Yeah.
Was it? He came?
It was at the Orange Room in Stratford.
Okay.
It was in May. It was right after I finished. I think it was a week after I finished my dissertation. So it was like straight after uni, and it was just an event. Like, so it was, I'd say the closest creative people to me at that time. Because I said this to my sister yesterday. The person who I was in like June to now, like I feel like I'm a completely different person. Yeah, like I feel like I've grown a lot. But like at that event, that was called Polarity. So it was basically about me being somebody I've got a lot of different aspects to me. So it's like I did a bit of my essay stuff there, I did a bit of my poetry stuff there, then there was the music that I listened to, and then there was like obviously the people that I surround myself with. And so polarity means like polar, to have poles, like things being split like this, and like yin and yang sort of type of thing. And I think it's all about balance creatively and just life in general. Like you need to be able to have things like that. So that event was really cool. And, I got some of my people there, like Kays was there. My friend Flo was there. My friend Lua was there. Like my friend Tariq was there. All of those people, like really cool, like, insanely talented people who
100%.
I'm, blessed enough to have in my life and have, be close to me. So yeah, it was a brilliant time. And also planning it and everything. I was like, going into this, I know I want to do creative stuff more. I was like, I need to have experience of having planned an event. Like, and so getting that done and out of the way, now I know for the next one, which is going to be bigger. Do you know what I mean? Like, these are things that I need to do. These are things that I can do better. These are things that I did well and that don't need to change. And so having that sort of clarity was great as well.
Yeah, that's great. And obviously you write your own poems. Have you ever written a poem with someone else or collaborated a poem? And if not, would you want to? And
I think
if so,
yes. Yes. Songwriting for me, I think is a very intimate sort of act of creation, because I think to be able to write with somebody else, like specifically for music as well, like, so this is moving away from poetry slightly, but to be able to songwrite for somebody else or like with somebody else, it's like we have creative visions that are similar and that are connective. Like, do you know what I mean? Like we can like sort of work off of each other's ideas and things like that. And I think that'd be great, because I think there's ways that you think, there's ways that I think, and how do we think about this together, right? And what does that look like when our ideas are like next to each other on the page? I think that's so cool. Did you ask me?
Yeah, like who would be linked to that actually? Who would be like your dream artist or like songwriter to like write for, write with?
Oh, to write for or with? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's a great question. Oh my god.
Like your dream, like that's like the top one.
Oh my god, that is what you did to me.
For like an artist,
or like you know, like co-write, like people that write for artists.
Yeah. Oh, I think I'd love to be able to be with Kendrick while he's writing. That's great. Like, because I think his like, I wouldn't even say I'm the biggest Kendrick fan. So I was like, I don't listen to his music that much, but every single time that I do, it's just like, it's very obvious that that's somebody who is literarily skilled.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So it's like, I want to be able to see what it's like when he's like, because you know, like when the beef was happening, him and Drake.
Oh yeah.
I was just like, he's actually getting songs out like 15 minutes after Drake drops. What is going on? Like, that's actually ludicrous. Like, I'm like, this is actually insane. So I'm like, I want to see what causes that. Like, do you know what I mean? Or sort of like how he goes through his process. And it probably is a thing of just like, he's done it for so long. And that he knows himself now in terms of artistically and stuff. But it'd be so cool to do that. I think.
And do you think you can tell, I mean, as you said, like you listen to him, you listen to what he was saying, you're like, okay, do you think you can tell when someone is literally like a lyrical genius? So for example, you know, when Dave had that time period where he was when the music he was putting out, people would listen to it, they're like, the words he's writing aren't just words, like he's proper like using words to flip them and like do you think you can tell in music when people are like lyrically talented
or have like ghostwriters?
Or have ghostwriters.
So right, so this is the thing, like ghostwriters, I feel like you can always sense it. Like, not necessarily, you can't always tell immediately, But you can always feel like there's always sort of a disconnect that you can feel musically, I think, when somebody hasn't written their song.
I hear that,
Do you know what I mean? Because the way that somebody performs a song that they haven't written is very different to one that they have.
Yeah.
So that's how I feel about ghostwriters. Not necessarily a good thing or a bad thing. It's just, it's not fully yours.
Yeah,
You're a
of course.
performer at that point rather than being an artist. Like, there is an art of performance,
of course,
but that's not the art of being a musician. But anyway, different thing. I forgot the other side of that. Sorry, what was that?
Yeah, so it's like, can you tell when you listen to music when someone's lyrically talented?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think because, there's certain things that if you, like, because I've gone through, like, an English degree at this point, there's certain things where if you're keeping an eye out for it, or if you are aware of something happening, you can tell when it comes around. So like, like for example, if we're talking about how like people use extended metaphors, for example, with how people chop and change rhyme schemes, or like, different sort of literary devices, just like that. Like, I think when that's used, I think I'll always be the first to be like, whoa, that was crazy. Whoa, that was crazy. And I really enjoy those moments, because it's just like, I think music is a brilliant way to get people into understanding the power of words and how much you can do with language.
All right, before we let you go, I got one last question. I think it's quite generic, what's one piece of advice you'll give to young poets out there wanting to like get out there, or just like trying to find their way into poetry?
I'll give this advice because my mentor gave me this advice. So she basically said to me that when you're writing, that is you providing the world an offering of yourself, an offering of your story, right? Even in the essay that I released yesterday, I was talking a lot about people's manipulation of context in terms of how they choose to present themselves to other people. Every single time you write, it's an opportunity to introduce yourself to a new audience. What is it that you want the audience to know about you, and what is it you want the audience to take away? Those are the things. But I think in terms of big picture, and if poetry is something you want to do, you just need to understand. I think the biggest thing, if you're a poet, your art is yourself. So you need to get to know yourself. You need to sit and cry with the things that make you cry. You need to sit and laugh with the things that make you laugh. Like, you need to understand your trauma. You need to understand everything that's happened to you, so that you can actually talk about it. You can't talk about something you don't understand, right? So you have to actually be able to sit with those emotions and stuff and feel. I say that's my biggest thing. To make people feel, you have to feel yourself.
Yeah, I actually have one more question. So
go.
Before you wrap up, I just thought about this. As you're talking a lot about feeling and like being able to sit in your emotions and actually express how you feel. Do you feel like growing up as a black male, especially like living in the UK, like around Essex area, do you feel like there's been a struggle with having like being able to express how you feel? Because I know a lot of the time, obviously I'm not a black male, but like a lot of the time people are like black boys in the UK, they're told to like not feel or like not sort of put that guard down. Even like when it comes to writing, like, they're not told to express how they feel. Do you feel like you've struggled with that at all?
I feel like I have. I feel like 100%. Like if you ask my sisters, they've only seen me cry once, and I was after work one day when my boss had really pissed me off. It was more out of frustration than anything. But I think for me, I don't have an issue with crying.
Yeah, of course.
It's just not my natural response to a lot of things. Like the last time I cried was when my favorite basketball player got injured. But that that was fine. But I think like emotion is something where it's like, for me, being able to feel it doesn't necessarily always mean that other people need to see that.
Of course, yeah.
So I think maybe it's less so that I didn't have an issue with feeling the emotion. I had an issue with it being seen. And in terms of like me unpacking that, in terms of like why that is that because every single when I was younger, shows of vulnerability weren't received well, and so now I don't even want to bother people with that journey. So, but I think for me, it's like, being emotional is something that's always going to happen. Like at some point, people are going to see you react emotionally to something. And like, I was watching a video yesterday. It was basically talking about, this whole performative male trend. It was basically talking about that and how like you can't act nonchalant. That's a contradiction. Because if you're acting, then that means you care. Like, so just trying to, it's just trying to find and then that's the thing. Being a man, being a black man, there's a lot of things where a lot of messages that society gives you, and it's about, I listen to the Receipts podcast a lot. They talk about, Audrey talks about taking their meat and throwing away their bones. Like, take what can work and what works for you, and get rid of the things that don't. Like, not everything that everybody says, not every single piece of advice needs to be applied 100%, like in the way that it was given to you. You can be like, you know what, I like that first 20% of that sentence. The last 80%, I need to see that again. Do you know what I mean? And then, you know, vice versa. But yeah, it's just, I think, trying to, improve, do something that puts you in a position where you're better off afterwards. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, that brings us to the end of our episode today.
Yes.
A huge, huge, huge thank you to our very first guest.
That's incredible, by the way. That's actually incredible.
Thank you for joining us today and sharing your story and your poetry in your life.
Thank you very much.
Before we wrap up, do you want to share your social media where people can find you?
Yes, sure. My Instagram is at Klaejo_Mind, so that's KLAEJO_Mind. Everything will be in my link tree over there, to be honest. You'll find me from there. So yeah, that's my Instagram. Go find my Instagram. Yeah. But yeah, thank you guys for having me. It's been great. And I will say, even when I met you guys at Printed in Colour, the question you guys asked really spun me. Like,
wait, which was it? The meme one?
The meme one, yeah. I was like, no, like, I've never thought about it, because I'm somebody who I used to spend a lot, especially during sports season, I spend a lot of time on Twitter. So memes are things that I take very seriously.
Yeah.
Even on Snap, back in my Snap days, I have a very big sticker collection. In that moment, you asked me that question, I swear everything left my mind. I was like, what the hell?
You know when I asked you that question and you were like, you will be there. I was like, what's you guys talking about? Auréa Talk Central,
where creativity speaks.